It's time for another Dirt Daily, and I am back in the shop with the Bronco Truck. What's the Bronco Truck? Well, it is a pickup truck made out of a new Bronco. This is a Badlands edition. It has a 2.3 liter EcoBoost engine, 7-speed manual transmission, which I really dig because it has a crawler first gear. And we kind of gave it this Australian Outback aesthetic, which I'm a big fan of, where we turned the back of the truck into a pickup truck instead of an SUV. This was a 4-door Bronco. We cut it in half. We didn't really stretch the frame between the axles. We did add a little bit to the back of the frame, and we put this bed on it so that it could do pickup truck things. I really dig it, that kind of Australian Outback look. And speaking of Australia, today's episode is brought to you by ARB. ARB makes things for off-road vehicles such as their air lockers, their Old Man Emu suspension, their fridge freezers, which I'm a huge fan of, and bull bars, bumpers. This one actually has a Summit bull bar on the front for the Bronco. You do not need to turn your Bronco into a pickup truck to put this bumper on. It goes right on. In fact, we didn't even lift the vehicle. It has the stock suspension currently. It's running a 9/16 tire, some super lug tires on the stock steel spare wheels that you can get for the Bronco. So Bronco truck, it's been kind of mothballed for a little bit, but I'm gonna get it out because we're gonna do some pickup truck things with it. We're gonna go out to the desert and pick up trash with our friends from the Gambler 500. But before we do that, I want to do a few upgrades to the actual bed of the truck to make it that much easier for hauling stuff. Let's get to work. The bed of the Bronco truck is an FJ45 aluminum bed from Aqualoo. Aqualoo is a company up in Canada. They've been making aluminum tubs for a long time. They make them for Jeeps, Toyota Land Cruisers, Suzuki Samurais, Land Rovers. And I wanted a bed for this truck that kind of had that Australian look, and they make this bed for the FJ45. They make it in different lengths, and they make it out of aluminum so it won't rust. Has a nice little tailgate, and we modified the frame to fit this on. We added some extensions in the back, but for the most part, the Bronco is stock. Other than it's missing the back half of the body, which really ticks off all of the computers. Right now there's no tail lights. They're actually on the floor behind the driver and passenger seat. Every time you get in, it's like, hey, the rear hatch is open. The rear back of my vehicle is completely missing. I don't know where my back seats are. Everything's crazy. And so the dash is lit up like a Christmas tree. But I'm not really too concerned about that because it does run and drive, usually. Sometimes it has some weird quirks with the key fob because there's like monitors that are all over the body of the Bronco and look for the key. So it's a little bit funky. Sometimes it doesn't always want to start, but for the most part, I've been able to get it to start and drive. I just replaced all the batteries in the key fob, so that kind of fixed it. But that's not today's project. Today's project is the bed. So the bed was painted to match the cab, and it's an aluminum bed. So it doesn't rust, but the paint is kind of chipping off. And we are going to take this thing out to the desert and pick up trash. So I want to do a few upgrades to it. Now, one upgrade that I've already done is this gas can. So this is not a real gas can. I mean, it is a real gas can, but it's not used the way a real gas can would be used. It's actually hiding the fuel filler neck for the Bronco. The hoses all came up through the bed and we're just kind of flopping around here. So I found this old jerry can and I cut out the bottom and the side and I made it kind of get strapped in place to hide all those hoses. The cool thing is the Bronco doesn't use a gas cap. It has this special flap thing where you just push the fuel filler hose inside there and you can pump it full of fuel. And so I just had this can sitting around and I thought it would look cool and it would hide the way the gas filler neck was before. Now, other things I want to do to the bed is I want to find a spot for the spare tire. The spare tire currently just kind of flops around back here. So I'm thinking about building some sort of headache rack for the back here that the spare tire can mount to, kind of standing up vertically. Also, if we're throwing trash in this thing, right now there's nothing here but this soft top. This soft top is from an M715 Jeep, and it doesn't really fit the Bronco truck. It kind of does. We built like a steel frame to kind of hold it tight, but I have some ideas to build maybe a hard top down the road. But for now, I want to build some sort of headache rack that will protect the top if we're throwing junk in here, and also will give me a spot to mount a spare tire and maybe like a high lift jack, so that we have a tire and a jack for if we're off-road and we need to change a tire. And then I want to do some stuff to the bed itself. The bed is currently, it's aluminum and it was painted, but the paint's kind of chipping off, and I was thinking about what I could do to give the bottom of the bed some protection. I don't know that I want to do bed liner right now, but I think I have a solution that'll be quick and easy to get it ready to go out to the desert. But first, let's sweep all the junk out of this thing. So I want to build a headache rack for the front of the bed. I want something that runs across the bottom here, that's made out of steel, that I can attach the spare tire to. And then it'll probably have some little kickers that come up and run across. I don't know if I'll get a full mesh put in it right now, but maybe I'll just build the framework and kind of see how I like it. Maybe I'll have a little kicker to help support it. And it's not going to be as tall as this, because this top is kind of wrapped over a steel frame just that we put on in order to make the top tight. And eventually I want to get rid of this top and build a hard top that I can seal up better against the environment, like for snow wheeling or driving in the rain. So to the top of that window is about 21 inches. There's 2 feet. Kind of thinking 25, 26 inches will be as high as the headache rack needs to be. The idea is that eventually, if there's a hard top on here, this would be a lot lower, but you'd still want the rack a little bit higher in case you want to rest a ladder or some pieces of steel or something like that on it. I'm going to start by putting a piece of steel, maybe a piece of angle, that wraps around this edge and cuts down into here that I can bolt to, and then maybe another piece of 1x2 rectangular tubing that will run across through here and up on this edge that it can all be tied together to. And then off of that, I will build up some sort of angle that comes up something like this, and then maybe a kicker across and maybe a support in the middle or something off center for the spare tire. I'm just going to use a piece of angle iron for the piece that's going to run across the front of the bed. I know angle iron's not as sexy as chromoly and DOM tubing, but for this job, I just need something that's going to give me a good surface to bolt to and weld other brackets to. So, double check our measurement here. And do a little chopping. This Evolution saw is so cool. Cuts so clean and straight. I am going to hit the ends with a grinder, and then I will probably also have to come in and strip away one whole side of this, because I don't want it 2 by 2. I want it like 1 inch on one side and 2 on the other. So I'll probably grab the plasma and mark a line and run it down and cut a whole inch off of one side. Had this 2x2 angle iron, and I wanted the top to be 1 inch and the bottom to be 2 inch so that it goes up against the front of the bed. So I just ripped it down with the plasma cutter. My guide got a little bit wonky at one end, so it's a little bit thinner here, but that's okay because it's actually going to press up in there, and then another piece will be welded on top of that. So you won't actually see that. I'll know it's there, you'll know it's there, but don't tell anybody. And then I marked the center and 3 inches in on either end so that I can drill holes through this in 3 spots and bolt it up against the front of the bed. So I'll drill holes in the center of this and then into the front of the bed, and I can bolt that up in place, and that'll hold it all where I want it to be. And then I will add a piece to the top, a piece of 2x1, 1x2 rectangular tubing that will follow this across the top. So I'm going to drill these holes, clamp it up in there. I may put another hole in the middle actually, so that because I'm going to have a spare tire that's kind of pulling on this thing as well, it won't hurt to have a couple extra bolts holding it into place. I took that piece of angle iron and I bolted it to the front of the bed. Then I made a long piece of 1x2 rectangular tubing, and that sits on top of the angle iron and it steps up over the outer rail of the bed. And then I have this short piece that has a little tail on the end, a little ear there, and that will cap the end of that top piece. And I will come in here with a square this up so that the corners are nice and square, and then grab a clamp and clamp this down, and then this will eventually be bolted to the bed. I'm going to just clamp it for now and then come and weld this together. This will be squared up, welded to this little leg, and then this little leg will have probably some sort of support tube up to the headache rack. And I will also come through and stitch weld this 1x2 to the top of that angle, so it's bolted down through the bed there and then ready to build up off of for the rest of the headache rack. I didn't bolt this down yet, but it's welded to the angle iron, and the angle iron is bolted in, so nothing's really moving. Everything's cooled down. I hit the grinder on this corner to try and get a nice flat level edge, and then I cut 2 pieces with a 10-degree angle at the top and the bottom. You want to make sure that the angle is the same, like it's running on the same direction. You don't want it to be opposite, because this is going to sit here, angled in at 10 degrees, and then that should be another 10 degrees, which should be parallel to this level here. Because the idea is that I will put a cross tube at the top that will connect both sides. Now, why did I go at 10 degrees? Well, I kind of eyeballed the angle of the windshield and the angle of the side of the truck, and I figured 10 degrees is, I could set my chop saw to 10 degrees and then duplicate it from side to side. And that's what I did. I made 2 pieces that were identical in length, with the angle at the bottom identical side to side, so that I can now line this up here and tack it into place. Now I'm going to want a gusset running from here to here. If I do about a 45 degree, it will almost overhang, but I may have to kind of lean that gusset in a little bit on the bottom, which is easy. I can kind of just grind it a little bit. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is get this lined up so it's just a little bit inboard from the edge here, so I can have a spot for some weld. And I'll probably even push it back a little bit from the front so I can get weld on all the sides. Probably end up having to finish weld the front when I take this off. I don't know if I'm going to take it off before I go to the desert. I might just kind of weld it all together rough, and that will give me an opportunity to take it out for the weekend. And if I come up with another idea, something else I want to add to it before I take it all apart and paint it. So I think right now the idea is to get this on here, tack this into place, put the other side on, tack it into place, measure the top piece, lay it on there, kind of eyeball to make sure that it looks level and parallel to this piece, which it should if all the math is right. Of course, I don't know if like this is crooked or the bed's crooked or anything else is crooked. But I'm going to start working on the uprights, getting those in place, and then move forward to the next spot. And yeah, we're just gonna make it happen. Where's my welding helmet? That looks pretty good. How'd that look? Oh. Have a tape measure across here. Looks like 59 to me. So think it's pretty level. Gosh, it's boring. It's very boring. Like it's too much. Too square. Too boring, too square. I think it needs a little flair. I think what I'm going to do is change the angle on the end piece. So it's not the same 10 degrees. Yeah. I don't think I like that. I don't know if I like that either. I don't know that I don't like it though. All right, so I made this side and it follows the 10 degrees all the way up. And it's very boring. It's very boring. And then this side, I didn't like the 10 degrees, so I shortened it up to 20 degrees. And I don't know that I like that either. And then I put a mark here at 45 degrees, and I kind of like that. I think I'm going to have a piece that's going to come and wrap over. Just trying to give it a little bit of flair, but it's hard because the thing's very boring and square. Plus, like the top piece that's already up there, like the soft top, is not really going to stay there. I'm pretty sure no matter which version I use, in the comments, everybody will like it the other way. And here's the other thing. If I don't like it, I can cut it off and change it. I could put a 45. Like I think what I would really like probably be like a 45 that ran across the whole corner. But what are we going to do tonight? 45 it or straight 10 degrees? I think it's long enough that I could cut that back to 10 degrees and line it back up. Well, I put a little bit more angle on the sides than at the top than was on the vertical. And I don't know if I like it or not, but I'm going to go with it for now. And I think this will be how it's going to live. Headache rack's coming together. It's a little funky, but it's coming together. Part of the problem is that I'm not really happy with this soft top, and then I'm building this headache rack to kind of go with another top that I'll build in the future, but because I don't have that on here and all the lines are getting funky. Like for example, this is 10 degrees here, but then when I had the top piece also cut at 10 degrees, it just looked way too boring. So then I cut it back to 20 degrees, and that was not cool enough. And now I think it's at 25 or 35 degrees. Basically, I'm not really happy with this top corner. And I know once I build a different top for it, for the actual cab, all of this might change. Like for example, it probably needs a piece that kind of cuts across at an angle in the middle so that it kind of goes up, over, and then across. But I'm also running out of material right now. Like I only have these two pieces left of the 1x2. I have other material that I could use, but I'm not sure if I want to start bringing in different size material on this build thing yet. That being said, I had one piece for a vertical, and I thought about putting it in the middle, but then it would block the window, which I don't really use that window, but I might in the future build a cab that has a window that I might use. Everything's just kind of fluid and not really coming together the way I want it to. But I did put this offset so that I can build a tire mount off of it and kind of hold the tire in about this location here. So I can still kind of see out the back window at that back corner. You don't really see right behind you in the driver's seat anyways, because it's right behind you and there's like cab here. So I think it's gonna come together the way it is. I might have some sort of gusset here, whether or not it's a little stubby guy or something out of tube or some other piece of scrap metal that I have laying around to build something here. And again, like I said, I can take it out to the desert for the weekend, see how it works, see how it looks. If I don't like it, come home, take the whole thing off, chop it all up, start all over. Or maybe I'll be like, yeah, it's kind of cool. Maybe it'll grow on me. I do think that this corner needs changed, but I don't think that's gonna happen tonight. And I did make a little cap to go right there to kind of hold it all together. So I have to make two of those and then start welding everything together and come up with some sort of brace from here to here to help support everything. And then I think we're just about done with the headache rack, or at least done for this time. And then in the future, we can come back and change it all over again. Let's go find some more material. That'll do. I hate it. I hate all of it. It's just too... It's 11 o'clock and I've been working on this headache rack thing and I just hate it. Like, I hate all of it. I don't like the material that I picked. I don't like the welds that I've been laying down. They're terrible. It's like sturdy enough and the tire could mount to it, but I just don't like how it looks. I don't like the angles. You ever built something and you're just like, before you even are done with it, you're like, I'm done with it. This is completely wrong. I don't even know if it's salvageable. I thought about like bringing the whole top tube down and hiding it, changing the angle here. It's really bad. I mean, I don't know what to do. I should probably close up the shop and come back tomorrow and look at it with fresh eyes, but Jeez, it's ugly. I did put a piece of rubber in on the floor, which is what you used to do before you could get spray-in bed liner. Like when I grew up, there was no spray-in bed liner. This is what you did. You put rubber floor mat down. So I found some rubber floor mat and I cut it, and it looks, I like that. I really like that. Maybe I just take the headache rack out and leave it here and don't bring it. Or I just lob it off and use just enough of it to mount the spare tire and come up with a headache rack in the future. I think that's what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm cutting 90% of it off and leaving it here and just kind of building a thing that will hold the spare tire. And then when I come home, I will redesign it all or take it all out and throw it away and start all over. It's funny how that works sometimes, but you have to, I think you just have to be able to say, this is not working. I got to start over, or cut it all apart and start fresh. I came in this morning and I decided I wasn't going to look at the headache rack. I was just going to clean up, and I was going to give myself like the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I was just tired last night and stuff wasn't going right. So I didn't really like what I was working on. So I decided to wait, clean up a little, and then look at it. Nope, still hate it. I'm gonna chop it all up, cutting it all up. It's not gonna be a headache rack, it's just gonna be a spare tire mount. And at least for now, it's gonna be a spare tire mount for now, and then maybe when I come back after I go to the desert, it'll turn back into a headache rack or a roll bar or something else. But for now, yeah, it's ugly. It's gotta go. I'm gonna keep the piece that bolts to the bed, and I'm gonna keep the piece that goes up behind the tire, and I don't know. I'm gonna just start with that, and then I'll figure out the rest of it. But for now, I'm gonna clean up and get back to work. Yeah, that's ugly. If you ever cut rubber, pieces of rubber to use floor mats or whatever, cutting rubber like this thick stuff, it's like almost 3/4 of an inch thick. Don't grab your grinder with the cutoff wheel and try to cut it. All it does is gum up your cutoff wheel and make a giant mess. This is all you need. You need a box cutter with a good sharp razor blade on it. And it's really simple. This side has these bumps on it, so cut it on the other side. Grab a square and set it to the length you want. You can also take a little drywall screw and screw that in. Like put 1 or 2 drywall screws. Take a couple drywall screws and screw those in. Then when you're cutting, your square, your straight edge, can butt up against those and it won't walk away. Grab your box cutter, make sure it has a nice sharp blade in it, and just follow the straight edge. And then, once you have the straight edge marked, come to the edge of something, like the edge of your workbench, or lay it over a piece of metal, and kind of pry it away, and you can see that cut starts opening up. And then just follow that cut. Nice and straight, nice and easy. Even kind of starts cutting right through. And then you have a nice straight cut instead of a bunch of smoke from trying to cut it with a power tool. And then you just back these screws out. And they really don't leave a whole lot of mark in the bottom. And then your piece is cut down to whatever size you need. So it is a little bit more difficult if you're trying to cut a curved line in the rubber. But if you're cutting straight lines, it's a pretty simple, easy way to cut thick pieces of rubber without making a bunch of smoke and a bunch of mess. All right, speaking of cutting, let's go cut this stupid headache rack down so we can finish this thing up and head to the desert. I built this. This little corner dingus is going to just support the spare tire. Then I built a bracket that has a piece of plate that runs across the back of the tire, two 9/16 bolts, a piece of 2x2 square, and a gusset. Now the idea is that this guy will sit right there. What I want to do is level my lug nuts. So it seems like it should go a little bit more this way. There we go. And then I'm going to come into the back side of this and tack this brace to the upright in two spots. Then I can come in with my impact. Remove the tire. And my spare tire mount is attached. Then I will take this gusset, I'll weld that on there to help support it. Weld all the way around so it doesn't rip off. And then my spare tire mount is done. I did screw up one thing. I wish I had shortened this a little bit so that the back of the tire would rub up against here. But once I had this plate on and I welded it all in place, I couldn't cut it off nice and square with my chop saw. So I just decided it's going to sit off a little bit, but that's fine. Let's weld this thing on so that we can go to the desert. I'm really unhappy with my welds on this project. I don't know if I don't know what's going on, but they are really bad. I have this Miller welder and I have had great luck with it. But then when I was out in Michigan, it stopped working. I had to take it in and it needed a complete new motherboard, computer board thing, which cost half as much as a whole new welder. So I paid it, I got it fixed, and it works. I don't know if something's a little bit different, if I'm out of practice because I haven't been welding for a few months. Yeah. I don't think it's going anywhere. Geez, it's ugly. It's really ugly. I mean, the whole thing's better than the rack thing I had before. Let's see here. We can get this tire back on. Look at that. Overall, I'm pretty stoked. I put a floor mat in. I have this gas can thing already here. My headache rack turned into just a spare tire mount. It looks, the welds on it are garbage, but that means I need to practice more. I need to build more stuff. It's still not as sexy as I kind of was hoping it would end up, but I don't think it's coming off or moving around. And I think it's time to put this truck on the trailer and head to the desert. I think we learned some stuff on this project. Sometimes projects don't go the way we had it in mind. In fact, sometimes you don't even have a plan and you start heading down one direction and you're like, it's not really working out. Don't be scared to take your project, cut it up, throw it away, start over. It is throwing away money. I do admit that's not easy, but if you don't like how it's looking, you're not married to the metal. You can cut the metal, you can change the metal, you can re-weld the metal, or you can just start all over. In fact, I kind of like this thing better now where it doesn't have a whole headache rack. It just has this thing that's holding the spare tire on. And that may be how it ends up living. That's it for this Door Daily. Go out there to your shop, make stuff, make a big mess. If you don't like it, start over, change directions, keep working at it. Your truck will get done eventually. Or it won't, you'll just keep having fun in your shop, making stuff, getting better at cutting and welding and grinding. All right, that's it, we'll see you guys next time.